Good morning, Holotable Heroes, and welcome back to another Galaxy of Heroes video with me, your bald-headed boy Scribble. It is Monday morning, and that can only mean one thing. We're about to be galactically challenged. Welcome back to the planet of Camino, home of the clones. We are facing off against Kellerum Beck and some Galactic Republic compadres over here today, and it's not too bad of a galactic challenge for a Monday. Our global modifier is basic training. Whenever the character in the leader slot ends their turn, all allies gain a stack of morale, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented for each active ally. Whenever a character deals damage to an enemy or recovers health, they gain a stack of morale, and whenever a character is inflicted with a debuff or receive damage, they lose a stack of morale. Whenever a character defeats an enemy, they are going to absorb all of the stacks of morale on the defeated enemy. Whenever a character starts their turn with 10 or more stacks of morale, they're going to gain advantage for one turn, and whenever a character ends their turn with 15 or more stacks of morale, they're going to gain protection up of 50% of one or more turn. What does morale do then? It stacks up crit damage, defense, max health, potency, and tenacity by 3% per instance. We've got bonuses called Pinpoint. This bonus is for our Rebel Fighter compatriots. Now, for this to properly work, you will want to have a full squad, and unfortunately that does mean that Mon Mothma is off the table. She does lead Rebel Fighters, but she herself is actually just a straight Rebel, which means Saw as your only real leadership. You can use, I think, Wedge as a Rebel Fighter and a leader, but it's not really very synergistic. Essentially, Pinpoint says whenever a Rebel Fighter uses a special ability, they're going to inflict Pinpoint for 2 turns on the target enemy if no other enemies have got Pinpoint. Essentially, whenever an enemy with Pinpoint gets damaged by a Rebel Fighter ally, they're going to lose 2% of their max health, which is actually quite useful. Whenever a Rebel Fighter uses a basic ability against an enemy with Pinpoint, we're going to gain a stack of heal over time, and whenever we use a special ability, we're going to call all Rebel Fighter allies to assist with heal over time. All Rebel Fighters with heal over time are going to assist on the pinpointed characters when you use a special ability. It's clear as mud, guys. It's clear as mud. Okay. Whenever a Rebel Fighter defeats an enemy with Pinpoint, we're actually going to gain a bonus turn as well, and all Rebel Fighters are then going to gain advantage, crit damage up, and speed up for 2 turns. Rebel Fighters with 10 stacks of heal over time or more will revive with 50% health and protection. Now, the snips on the enemy team is going to constantly be stripping off our heal over time, so it gets a little bit frustrating at that point. Whenever Pinpoint expires on a character, they're going to recover 100% of their health, so if you don't defeat them in 2 of their turns, they are going to basically fully heal. Alright, what does the enemy have? They've got Steadfast Retribution. This is the same modifier that Padme teams have. It's frustrating. Essentially, they're going to reflect our damage back at us. It's very frustrating. So the heal over times are what keeps us alive here. So what are our feats then? We need to win with a full team of Rebel Fighter units. We also need to complete the battle after inflicting damage over time 30 times. And we need to win after removing 400% turn meter from the enemy. We're going to start off with a Saw Gerrera team, and we're going to work from there. The first team that we're going to be using then is going to be a Saw, Bistan, Kal-Katarn, Xaereth, and Baze setup. I threw in Bistan just because he has a chance at, putting damage over times. It's not really going to work, guys. You could probably throw Cara Dune in, you could probably throw in C-Rex, anybody like that to really get it done. I found I didn't necessarily need it. The rest of the team kind of has it covered. So let's roll the footage. So this is obviously a lot easier if you've got Luthen, and I will show you what to do if you've got Luthen. What I'd recommend is this opening turn, target R2-D2 so you can actually land that, I can't remember what the name of the debuff is from Kal-Katarn's AoE, but you might as well land it. And essentially, I like to go all in on Jedi Anakin if I can, because I find like he's the biggest threat in the game. But the biggest benefit of this team, really speaking, is, apart from the fact that it's full Rebel Fighter, of course, guys, I mean, that's kind of a requirement, is that Xaereth and Baze just kind of keep the team alive with all the heal over times that's going on. There's a whole lot, Snips just comes in and is just like, you know what, I'm going to yeet you out of existence, doing about 240,000 points of damage in one hit. There's not a whole lot we can do to mitigate that damage. So essentially, there's just a lot of TM generation that seemed like Baze almost takes constant turns here. It's absolutely fantastic, and we'll relatively easily get through this team. So, like I said, target the person that has got Pinpoint whenever you can. Using Baze's second special will cleanse off the taunt on Kenobi when you need it, and just constantly try and work around and get down to people as quickly as possible. You can see we're gaining bunch of stacks of that morale thanks to all the abilities and the turns that we are taking, which is nice. and eventually you do chew through. I know it looks very, very hairy, but essentially because of Chirrut giving so much heal over time, we do actually sustain quite well. If you do not have Chirrut and Baze, it's probably going to be quite a bit harder for you, but as you saw with mine, they're like Relic 3, they are low relics as I could invest in, and they do not require any Xaeters. In fact, they do not even have any Xaeters on their kits, and they are relatively old characters, so there's not a lot of Chirotech to gear them either. They are useful to gear just in general, with Luthen being in the game now. They're a part of some pretty fantastic teams that can take out some Galactic Legends, so it's never a bad thing to invest in these characters. So once GK is gone, it might be in your interest to start off trying to pinpoint GK, truth be told, just to get him out a little bit quicker. I like to go after Jedi Knight Anakin, then R2-D2, and then finally Snips. Usually once they've lost a character or two, they kind of lose a little bit of their kick, and it's not too much of an issue. You'll see now I just put it on full auto because I'm not too concerned about what's going to happen at this point. It's only Keller and Beck that becomes a little bit of a nuisance because he's constantly taking turns and counter-attacking and gaining foresight and all this sort of business. It's a little bit frustrating, but in the long run, it's not terribly bad. You can see he just gets controlled at the end over here, and now we're reducing all of his max health lots. So he drops like a bit of a fly after a while. So just come on, stop counter-attacking and gaining foresight, Keller and Beck. You're very frustrating. Look at him just constantly gaining that foresight and counter-attacking, and then there he goes. His job done. See, not too bad, not too bad. Now, generally speaking, you can just drop out Bistan or Cara Dune or whoever you're using and use Luthen if you have Luthen in relic levels, maybe even without relic levels, and you can pretty much just put it on full auto, I will be honest. This team just does not die. It survives incredibly well, and Luthen just brings in an additional character that has got a marked that can obviously be resummoned, that Rebel Fighter guy. Can't remember what he's called. Is it Rebel Fighter? Something like that. Yeah, it's so much easier with Luthen, and this, I think, was the intention with this particular Galactic Challenge. They're like, yeah, let's make sure everybody's got, like, brand new Conquest characters and, you know, relatively niche factions geared up. But it's really not too bad. With Luthen, like I said, you just go full auto and you will pretty much win. Even there, with Chirrut in the red, still surviving a burning effect from R2-D2 over there, just hanging on for dear life, and after that it all just sort of snowballs. You can see how Kyle-Katarn is basically destroying himself thanks to that modifier on the enemy team, but really not so bad here, not so bad at all. Very quick and easy with Luthen. Turn meter removal and damage over times. EP lead with Mara Jade, Gideon, Vader, and Han Solo. Han is just there to stun the enemy Keller and Beck at the start. After that, control the situation with Gideon, basically does all of our turn meter removal for us. Note that the stagger from Cara Dune does not count as turn meter removal. I don't know why, it just doesn't as far as the game is concerned. All you need to do is get off 2 Force Crushes with Vader, and that is all of the damage over times that you need to get done. After that, it's just about controlling the field. I like to just lock everybody down. By the way, Han Solo's basic can also remove turn meter when they're over 50% TM, which is nice. Yeah, all you want to do is just try and control the field. If you can get off to a second control the situation with Gideon, that is typically all of the turn meter removal that you're going to be needing, just because of the sheer volume of turn meter removal that Gideon does. He removes everybody's turn meter down to 0, and then you gain 25% yourself. Now, if you find that this one is going too quickly, I would recommend just slowing things down. Don't use AoEs with Mara Jade, and just try to limit the amount of damage. Don't do any culling blades, keep people alive, and just hope for the best, because it is relatively easy. The enemy barely takes any turns, as you can see. They spend most of it just completely locked down, unable to do anything. So yeah, it can be done. I find Han to be very useful here, just because it stops the enemy taking a turn, because if Keller and Beck uses his mass assist on one turn, you're going to lose a unit, and that can just be frustrating. I mean, you could probably swap him out for maybe someone like Malak, and hopefully they target him, but I just found Han to be an easier way of getting this done. And it should give you that turn meter removal without too many issues, and definitely gives you your damage over times. For those lucky folks that also happen to have Lord Vader, I recommend throwing in a Darth Vader lead. With Lord Vader, I'm going with Piet, Gideon, and Thrawn. This will also get you all the damage over times, thanks to the combination of Lord Vader and Darth Vader, but Darth Vader's leadership also lets Empire characters remove turn meter whenever they use special abilities. Well, it's like a 50% chance to have 20% of their turn meter removed, which can't be resisted, so that's a very useful way of getting turn meter whilst also getting the dots, and it's incredibly easy to win with this team. Obviously, this is using a Galactic Legend. I'm just trying to throw out some options for you wonderful people at home so that you know how to get it done without too many issues. As you can see, well, actually, let's just fast forward this a bit, but you'll be able to see whenever we're using abilities over here, you'll see occasionally that the enemy is going to be losing turn meter. So any AoEs in particular make this very, very good. You saw Snips had a turn meter removal there. Caloran Beck had his turn meter, all his turn meter removal. It's a pretty reliable way of getting this done, guys, and it's very, very easy to win with. As you can see, there's just so many dots on the field that the enemies drop like flies when they take their turns, and you get pretty decent levels of turn meter removal. Obviously, it does use a Galactic Legend, so I don't expect everybody to have this available to them, but it's a just-in-case here. Let's move on to the next team. Now, JTR has always been the queen of turn meter removal, so we're using a JTR, BB-8, R2-D2, C-3PO, and Chewie setup over here. Essentially, whenever we get exposes on the enemy team, which we should be getting quite a lot of, we use special abilities and it's going to remove turn meter from the enemy. JTR's second special as well can remove a boatload of turn meter, as you can see there, and you've got blinds and dispels, and you've got C-3PO as well, who removes turn meter on a basic and reduces cooldowns on allies with 3 stacks or more of translation. It's very, very powerful to get done. Now, I do end up losing a unit over here because Snips is quite frankly a monster, so you might want to try and focus on her and control her, because if she does get one of those hits off, she will just one-tap one of your units. I think that we lose BB-8 quite early on here, which is a bit of a shame because BB-8 is very, very useful to have. There we go, it's that AoE from Anakin followed by the special assist from Snips that just sees us off there. But we still do manage to win this battle, and I'm pretty sure that we would have got, if not the exposes, we certainly would have got the turn meter removal, because there's just so much turn meter removal in this team. Every single time we're doing specials and there are enemies with exposes on them, they're going to lose turn meter. Every time we use JTR's second special over here, it removes a big chunk of turn meter. Basics from C-3PO also remove turn meter. It's super, super reliable. And you can see in the end we get round to not losing any other units over here. It's just down to Caloran Beck, and we've still got sources of turn meter removal and control. Relatively reliable and a relatively accessible team. Chupio is not necessary in my opinion. You could throw in someone like L3, you could throw in any sort of droid is really the ideal character to be using here, just to benefit from the boosts that BB-8 and R2 and JTR do. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to about do it for today's episode of Galactically Challenged with me, your bald-headed boy Scribble. Make sure you do like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing, and a huge shout out to my wonderful patrons. You guys are absolutely freaking awesome. Thank you for your continued support. I will see you all in the very next video. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.